I'm Lisa Simon, co-owner of Radius Gallery with Jason Neal, my husband, who can't be here today because he's a little under the weather. But he came and put this TV up for y'all. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about where the series came from and what we'll be hearing about tonight. We opened Radius Gallery in 2014, not here, but around the corner on East Main. And we came to this area at the beginning of 2020, which if you're doing the math, you probably are in tune to our fabulous timing, which was a few weeks before the pandemic. So we opened, doubled our space, got ready for this big brick and mortar experience, and it all went dark. And we had to shift to online and so using social media heavily and all these things. And that was a challenge. But more than the vicissitudes of running a small business and those challenges, what really compels Jason and I to run a gallery is art advocacy. Making a claim for the arts in this community and for everyone. And we really believe that a fundamental part of that has to be economic. We want to live in a place where the arts are thriving, and this sort of marriage between business and the humanities, which is what our backgrounds were in, were the humanities. So we had to figure that out and had to figure out how to not just be a place to show art and be a nonprofit museum, but a place where artists could make a living and not just being asked to show their work for exposure. Because remember, people die of exposure. It's an old joke. But our primary hope for the gallery is to shift the economic balance a little in favor of the artist. And we do that because we, not just to live in a place that thrives, but because we really believe that that's what makes this community special, and it's what nourishes us as human beings. So bringing that all together and creating a space for it in this big, beautiful building was our primary reason for doing it. This economic pressure that I spoke of is especially keen for Indigenous artists. And as an example, Jason, just a few years ago, Jason and I went to Santa Fe to the 100th year anniversary of the Santa Fe Indian Market, which was fabulous. But after a couple days there, we joked that we met more Indigenous artists from Montana in Santa Fe than we had met in 10 years of having an art gallery in Missoula. And that's because they can make a living in Santa Fe. So this exhibit started after that trip. That was 2 years ago, and we started thinking about how to change this balance, how to shift that balance. And it was in Santa Fe that we met Terrence Gardepee, and who has been working in Santa Fe doing ledger art for over 30 years, and who loves Montana, and who has for the last couple months and made the work that he made for this show from Browning, where he grew up. And he loves being back in Montana. And if you're not following him on Instagram, please do. He made a really moving post the other day of what it was like to be back as an artist, being represented at a gallery in Montana and working in Montana again. So, you know, getting to that aspect of it is sort of what we're really interested in here. And this exhibit is not just a 5-week exhibit. It's a commitment we made to show ledger art for the whole year. So there will be a continuous supply of ledger art from different artists, not just these 6, and talks beyond the 5 that we've advertised for the rest of the year. We're going to keep going. And there's murals going up, which I was the creative director of that project, that are going around the substation. And the north wall, which is going to open this spring, is all ledger art. And these 6 artists are all on that wall. So it's a year-long focus that's been a long time coming on helping create this market for Indigenous artists in Montana. So I hope you go to that opening of that. They're all going to speak there. And it was also important to us that we created an education program from this, so you're not hearing from people like me who learned history from white written history books, but hear from the artists themselves and what it is, the felt experience of being Indigenous and making art in this place. So there's a whole series of talks that are listed up on Jonathan's desk. So if you want to go up there and take a look at those, and I think there's room in most of them. Cameron has agreed to do this talk a second time because it was so popular this time. So this art form is part of the cultural practices of Plains Indians, and it has since been, has become a symbol of Indigenous resilience in communities, in Indigenous communities everywhere. And Cameron's going to talk to us a little more about this. He has been teaching about ledger art in Montana for over 10 years in schools. He has a degree from UM as an artist. It's an MFA, right?
Integrated Arts and Education.
Integrated Arts and Education. He is the partner to Aspen Decker, one of the artists, and they have 4 amazing children and an active business together. He's told me a little bit about this talk, and I'm so excited that we get to learn and hear from it, from him. So I'm also very excited that we're being recorded by MCAT. So make sure your phones are turned off. And this is made possible from a grant by MCAT. So they've donated their time here. So big thanks to that great Missoula organization too. So without further ado, let's give Cameron a big welcome and have to learn.
Haskahalt Pasiat, Cameron Decker, Louis Quest, Chinku Huil Til Nachwen, Chinis Lemti Huil Yethwasket. I said, good day everybody. My name is Cameron Decker and I make things with Aspen in our business, alive and well. And I am grateful for today. Thank you all for coming. I'm just honored that so many people showed up to hear this talk. And I wanted to start by thanking the gallery and Lisa and Jason and Jonathan, Megan, everybody that makes this place happen and work. It's been a real amazing place to be able to come and watch Aspen grow. And hey, I even sold a piece at the holiday show this year, so you know, it's been an incredible place. I've been coming here since it was around the corner, and I used to bring students from Salish Kootenai College to the Radius shows on first Friday nights, and 99% of the time that was the first time they'd ever been to an art show and or into an art gallery. It was kind of an amazing and stunning thing, and I was really happy to be able to bring students there, and it was a transformative experience for them. The quiet bus ride here compared to the talkative bus ride all the way home about all the things they want to make and do is just always incredible. And I would take them to the Radius and to the MAM, and just always grateful for this space that you've created and built. It's been transformative for Aspen and I, and just wanted to thank you for hosting this. So hopefully you can all hear me. I'll try to make sure I'm talking loud. I'm Dene. I'm a member of the Navajo Nation. I'm a descendant of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. My grandfather was enrolled here. Like Lisa mentioned, I taught at Salish Kootenai College for about 10 years. But before that, I got my bachelor's in art history at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque. And then what am I going to do with art history? I found a job at Salish Kootenai College. They're looking for an art history teacher, and I was able to move all the way back home, and I started teaching there. So art history has always been really close to my heart. I taught a lot of classes there, but art history was my favorite. It just seemed to really open up the world to students and to the possibilities of what they could do and what they could add to art history. And so my favorite thing to teach there was ledger art. It was a great way to introduce maybe the concept of contemporary Indian art and I taught contemporary Indian art history. So to be in this studio, or in this gallery space with these artists who I used to show pictures of in my slides, I didn't have to add them to my slideshow because they're here. My slides will do no justice to being able to go look at all of the work that's in here. There are some incredible leaders in ledger art. I'm just humbled to be in this room and to be able to speak about their work. So I'll get started. And please feel free. I'm going to lose track of time. I'll talk all day. So just just pull me off stage. I met Aspen at SKC, and she was a really talented artist, and I've been just really honored. It's been kind of amazing. I feel like I get to witness art history as I watch her make and create her works here. So it's also an honor just to get to speak about her work as well. And she let me use some of her images in my slideshow. This is a little different sort of history. I used to rattle off a ton of slides. I made just very few here because there's not a whole lot of time. I just want to introduce maybe some concepts to think about what ledger art really is, what are we really talking about, and to give you maybe some more context behind why these are here and the sort of profound nature of why they even exist and the fact that we're even still looking at it and talking about it today. And I lean on this term here, time immemorial. Has anybody ever heard that term before? Time immemorial, yeah. We talk about that a lot to me it means sort of an unbroken connection with the land from a time that I don't know where it started. It started since creation, and it's a time that, as an art historian, I struggle with because I want to put a date on it. I want to put a number on it, but I can't put a number on it. It's just is since it has been, and I got a box of stuff. I brought with me some pigments. I think about this term a lot because I make my own artworks with pigments that I gather from the land. I stopped telling people where I find it, but Aspen taught me that. She said, cut that out. I put a picture here of pictographs with a detail of an image that I also didn't put where it's located exactly, but it's here. It's here in Montana. There's thousands of pictographs located all throughout Montana, thousands of years old. And I think about that as that desire to make a mark and to put a mark on the wall, and how lucky we are to be able to see these so many years later. These are things that have lasted the test of time. They weren't the only, art being made. I'll just use the word art, but how this was thought of is probably a lot different than maybe what that term carries. And that connection, though, I feel like that I don't know exactly when it started, and I don't know exactly, even why it was made or what's being said there. But when I create with it myself, with basically the same exact material, I feel that connection and that same desire when I make a mark. And so when I look at ledger art, I always like to start with pictographs. Pictographs are images painted onto a wall. I don't have images of petroglyphs, which are etchings into rock or a surface, but pictographs I just wanted to show you. If I asked you, like, what do you think is going on here? What do you think it's trying to say? I don't even know if I could tell you what the right answer was. I don't know what is being said here and what's being made. There are other pictographs where you might see something that you do recognize, and I think that's kind of incredible. You might see a pictograph of like an elk or a bison, and we can interpret it and we can connect with that over time, over eons. And this spirit of making a mark tell a story and to communicate is the same spirit that lives in these contemporary pieces today. I could ask you maybe like, you see these dashes and these marks here, but I might ask you like what's not there that you might expect in an art piece. It really is just a sort of a series of marks, simple marks, and they're there for a reason. Near this pictograph are silhouettes of bison, of things that you might recognize. But what you don't see those bison on are like a horizon line. You don't see maybe like the clouds or the particular time of day. You don't see really anything that's not supposed to be there, that's not the most significant information that's supposed to be there. And that point will make sense, I guess. It's something kind of hard to start with. It'll make sense as I go on here. But to me, pictographs are all about the most significant information and what to remember about telling a story. And sometimes I had students say, "Oh, well, that's really simple," and then I would task them with that. I would say, "Well, I want you to think of a story in your life, something important to you, and I want you to pare it down to the most essential marks that you can make and the most significant information without overtelling it." And I would put the pencil in their hand, and they would have the paper, and then you'd find like, oh. That's hard to do, you know. It's not easy to want to say everything and put it into one symbol. And so I think about that a lot with pictographs, and it's incredible to me that these feel so, they are ancient, and they are, when you talk about thousands of years, it's something that's so old and so relatively new at the same time. When I interact with those same materials, I feel that connection to the past and the responsibility to tell stories that are, of the most important and significant information. I have this horn that Aspen made. This is how we met. She was making this, and it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I didn't know you could polish bison horn, and she was on the polisher, and she was polishing this horn. And then over time she was etching this story on it, and she told me about the story that's here, and it's a coyote story. It's a creation story. It's one that I guess I won't be able to tell you today, but it's the only coyote story that I know now, and it's really powerful. It's about why there are no salmon in the Clark Fork River today, and coyotes' part in that. And you can see these pictographs that she made here. There's people on horseback right here. There's a bison. There's two bison etched in here. There's some bison bones and a bison skull in there. The story ends with Coyote's supposed to bring bison and back to the people, and he eats most of them along the way, and he leaves a pile of bones all the way back, and and the story works its way all the way around this horn. And I was just amazed at how effortless she did that, because I think that's really hard to do, to tell an entire story, and especially one that's so complicated, one that takes me at least half an hour to tell you. And she just synthesized it down into these marks, and she's so fearless when she does it. She just wood burned them into this horn. To me, it's that ability to put a story behind an image that's so powerful and profound, and you'll see that in all of this work in here. So we start with time immemorial. We start with just thinking that there was much more before all of this work. There's a whole history behind all of these works, and a reason why they look the way they do, and why they're made of what they're made of. And before paper, you see it's all on paper in here. Before paper, it was hide. Hide was the surface. Hide was the paper. I brought some with me here today. I learned how to scrape hide before I met Aspen. I learned how to work with hide from Jay Labor, who used to work at Salish Community College, who has the sculpture out front of the University of Montana, a really prolific Blackfeet sculptor who passed a number of years ago. He was really influential, and he put me through the ringer with learning how to scrape hides. We had a project together, and I just remember he set me in front of one, and he was like, "Don't stop till this is done." And I had to scrape all the fur off, and it took me hours. And I think that's when Aspen said she first saw me, and I was in the back just like, there was fur all over the place. And I was like, "Oh, this will be easy enough." And then, man, it took me like all day. And I had to go up to him and be like, "I can't finish this today. This is impossible. This is impossible." I'll pass this around to you if you'd like to handle it. This is deer hide that I scraped. Aspen hunted this deer, and I scraped it in our house, and this was the original sort of material. And I think of just how old this material is. It doesn't last as long as like a pictograph will, you know. It just doesn't make it through time as well as something like a pictograph will. And this is time immemorial as well, though. I don't know when it started. I don't know who the first person was to make something out of hide, but this is something that is an incredibly old form and surface and material, and it's something Aspen and I still do today. It's one of my. It's something that really. One, I still have muscle just because I get to scrape hides. I can still do a push-up because I can scrape hides. It's a lot of work, but it's really good work. It's something I love being outside. The birds love it, and they come around, and the dogs love it. They pick up scraps. But hide is something that was so critical for Plains tribal people, for especially tribes that had a lot of movement, nomadic tribes. And I can see why. It's so lightweight. It's such a lightweight material, especially when it's dry. And it can be painted on. It's such a beautiful surface for painting on that I can see why it was used that way. Let me move on to this next one real quick. And so one of these things that are made out of hide that I think are really incredible are parfleshes. Have you ever seen a parflesh before? This is a parflesh. This is one Aspen made. I didn't scrape this one. I can't claim that. But this is an elk hide, so it's really, really strong. It has memory. It like comes back down. It has memory in its in the way it operates, you know, and the way all the properties and the way it works. When it gets wet, it'll be flexible. When it dries, it shrinks back down. But a parflesh was used as a functional object. It was for carrying things, right? You can unfold this, and you can open this, and you can put things in here. And when you close it, it can be held. It's pretty safe inside of here. This one's unpainted, but this is one that Aspen painted with the hide. This is the scraps from this project. It's at the Northwest Montana History Museum. They collected, and this is an incredible functional object that is really closely tied to identity. Because this one's not painted, but when it's painted, it's usually painted with really specific designs, tribally specific designs. You can see it in a lot of, I think in some of these other works too. But parfleche, it's a French word. It means to parry an arrow. So it can be worn, and typically it's worn. Like you can hold it on your side or on your arm or whatnot. They can be all kinds of different sizes. I've seen them, really small, all the way. They've read about them being between like up to 5 feet long, and as big as a hide could be, to carry a lot of things. And they're stacked on the back of a travois, and you can stack them and you can tie them together. You can build them in boxes, and you can carry a lot of things. And if you think about having to move a lot, especially with the seasons and especially with the animals, then this is a really necessary object. But it's also a protective device. It's really, really strong, and it will parry an arrow. So it not only is it carrying maybe your food or some of your precious objects, but you're wearing it. It's sort of a design element here. It's a piece of regalia. It's protecting you literally from danger. It's also lightweight. You can drop it and it won't break. To me, it's this representation of indigenous ingenuity that was developed since time immemorial And what is typically on here is you see a lot of designs like this and patterns and designs that are tribally specific. I'm not an expert always in all of that. I can't always tell you like which tribe made which painting or which one belongs where. Sometimes they're clan specific or family specific or tribal specific. But if you do know that stuff, when you see somebody wearing this, you would know what tribe they're from. So not only is this an object that's functional and protective, it's also like an indicator of where you're from. It's identity by design. And that's something that, you know, they only really have a whole lot of examples from the mid 1800s. They just don't survive that long if they're not taken care of very well, or they just, you know, hide is not a permanent material. And so I can just only believe that they are from time immemorial. They've just been since it was. But these designs weren't just made up. They weren't just at random. They were earned, or they were passed down, or they were given. The first parfleche I ever got to paint with Jay Labor, we needed a design, and I found out I didn't know what to do. All of a sudden I was looking at this blank canvas and I didn't know what to paint. And it was a mentor of mine who was like, go to Eva Boyd. She was the elder working in our building who taught sally bag weaving, and it was I had never really got to interact with her before, and I found out she liked teapots, and I just happened to be making a teapot in my ceramics class. And so I asked her if I could trade her a teapot for one of her designs, and she was really happy to do that. And so I got to paint a little square design of hers that she said was in her family, and we had a good trade. And I always loved that about her. That was our first sort of interaction and beginning of our friendship. But to me, when I think about these designs, I guess I've encountered times where there's like stereotypes, or even one time I guess I was tasked with doing a cultural arts project with students, and I guess I won't name where or anything, but I asked like, well, maybe do you have a suggestion for me or anything? Because I had just moved back here, and this person told me, oh, just paint teepees or something like that, and I was like, I don't know if that's how that works, you know. And it doesn't work like that. It's a little more, it's so much more personal, and it's so much more tribally specific, and about where you're from and who you're from, and that it just is something I want people to understand when they see these types of designs. They're so intentional, and there's a lot of thought behind them, or there's a lot of heritage behind them, and it's really hard to just put it all under one sort of umbrella. What time is it? I'm just gonna keep talking. So what was happening? Why ledger art, and what happened that made ledger art become what it is? And I'm gonna set these down for a minute. We talk a lot about, I'm sorry, a lot of cups here. I want to read something to you. Sorry, I thought I was a little more ready for that. Hide becomes harder to come by. Bison are brought from, I've read a lot of different numbers, but numbers from anywhere from 100 million, 60 million is the kind of the number, like the average number I see. There was about 60 million bison on the plains in about the mid 1800s. And they were brought down to about a population of 1,000, maybe just under 1,000 by 1875. And I want you to just understand like where this art form survived out of. And I could tell you all of this history as much as I could, but I just want to read from a speech made by a man named Captain Richard Pratt, and he's responsible for this educational philosophy called Kill the Indian and Save the Man. And there's two things really going on. There's a lot more than two things going on at this time period in the mid to late 1800s. But this is a project I've been working on myself. I've been making these bison skulls out of clay. Trying to make as many as I possibly can. And I brought 60 though today out of this box, because for me this would equal 1 million bison. 1 million bison. In 1875, 72 tribal leaders and warriors from the plains were rounded up and brought to Fort Marion in St. Augustine, Florida. This is the entryway into Fort Marion. It's what they would have seen. And it's where they encountered Captain Richard Pratt, where he was first assigned to, he had an experiment in mind called Kill the Indian and Save the Man. It is essentially a re-education of Native people. And he eventually left Fort Marion in 1879, excuse me, and he started the Carlisle Indian Boarding School, which became the model for boarding schools all throughout the United States, even in St. Ignatius, everywhere here. So I have 3 passages I want to read from his speech. It's a really long speech, and I'm going to set these out as I talk about it, because the bison are being eliminated, tribal leaders are being rounded up, and they're being imprisoned. They're being educated in English and in religious studies, and they're being asked to draw, and they're drawing their lives on paper. So, a great general has said that the only good Indian is the dead one, and that high sanction of his destruction has been an enormous factor in promoting Indian massacres. In a sense, I agree with the sentiment, but only in this, that all the Indian there is in the race should be dead. Kill the Indian in him and save the man. It is a great mistake to think that the Indian is born a savage, an inevitable savage. He is born a blank, like the rest of us. Left in the surroundings of savagery, he grows to possess a savage language, superstition, and life. We, left in the surroundings of civilization, grow to possess a civilized language, life, and purpose. Transfer the infant white to the savage surroundings, he will grow to possess a savage language, superstition, and habit. Transfer the savage-born infant to the surroundings of civilization, he will grow to possess a civilized language and habit. These results have been established over and over again beyond all question. And it's also well established that those advanced in life, even to maturity of either class, lose the already acquired qualities belonging to the side of their birth, and gradually take on those of the side to which they've been transferred. When we cease to teach the Indian that he is less than a man, when we recognize fully that he is capable in all aspects, in all respects as we are, and that he only needs the opportunities and privileges which we possess to enable him to assert his humanity and manhood, when we act consistently toward him in accordance with that recognition, when we cease to fetter him to conditions which keep him in bondage, surrounded by retrogressive influences, when we allow him the freedom of association and the developing influences of social contact, then the Indian will quickly demonstrate that he can be truly civilized, and he himself will solve what to do with the Indian. It's a really long speech. You can read it on your own time. It's worth the read. Think about that a lot. the prisoners are being, I mean, that's what I've heard it described by Terence Gardapi's son, Taran Laskin, as prisoner art. And it's essentially what it is and what it started as, art that was made on paper that, before Fort Marion and boarding schools had made its way into the plains and been traded for or gathered up after battles. But it really, they talk about in our history a fluorescence of it here at Fort Marion because they were producing so much of it. A lot of times they were drawing their lives, memories, hunting scenes, a lot of hunting scenes. And you can view a lot of these books, these historical books, at this incredible website called plainsledgerart.org. It'll work here. I really encourage you, if you've never seen this website, to go to it and to take some time to look through these books, because it's the only place where they're all gathered up at once. I want to show you a couple here. You can actually go up here and you can select by tribe, but you can also select Fort Marion, and you can look at books that were made at Fort Marion. Oh, it's not showing you. Oh my gosh. Let me, I'm sorry. I'm glad you said something. I'm sorry, there we go. This is the website here. And you can click on this drop down. I don't work for them or anything, just to let you know. I've pushed everybody I know to this website all the time, free of charge. I'll sponsor any day. It's an incredible site for educating yourself and to be able to glimpse into the lives of some of these artists. Bear Heart Sketchbook. Oops, right here. So you can click in here. And there's some incredibly detailed scans of all of these different drawings. And you can see all of the diversity in the way they approached what they were trying to express, what was interesting to them, what they were remembering, the things they were seeing. I wanted to show you this one here. You can get up close. And this is a bird's eye view of Fort Marion. Oh, of course, can't see it. I'm sorry about that. Why is that highlighting? Oh gosh, I guess I can see it better on my screen than on here. It's a little bit more difficult to see. But there's some incredible sort of illustrations of mapping out and what they were experiencing. My art history teacher taught me about artists and how Fort Marion changed a lot of what was going on in ledger art. Before Fort Marion, a lot of the imagery was of war. There's so much battle. So many of these warriors lived such incredibly violent lives and had incredible acts of bravery fighting with the U.S. government. They weren't allowed to make images like that while they were in Fort Marion. Tourists would come through Fort Marion and buy up a lot of this ledger art, and it was for sale. And they were drawing a lot of scenes of hunting. A lot of the things that they were seeing are what Captain Richard Pratt said was the successes of the re-education program that they were going through. They were allowed to draw those. And gosh, I'm sorry that this isn't so clear for you to see up here. But this is, we're so lucky to have a resource like this that is so thorough, and it's gotten better all the time since I have started ever looking at it. And so I don't know how many total books are on here, but you can go through and flip page by page. There's an incredible amount on here, and they're all different. Every artist had a different way of composing their images, the things they wanted to talk about, and the things they were remembering. There's a lot of courtship scenes, there's a lot of hunting scenes, and a lot of it's drawn with colored pencils. This was the new medium. I think about that a lot versus my pigments from here to here. Colored pencils brought a lot of new colors, a lot of colors. I've never found a blue. I haven't really found a reliable green on my own. Colored pencils provided a whole other palette that you could tell when some of these artists got a hold of a blue colored pencil. They used it quite a bit, primarily. Aspen likes her blue colored pencils. Yeah, I'm sorry this doesn't show you very well here. But it's really worth your time. If you haven't ever had a chance to look through here, I encourage you to go home and flip through the books, page by page, details. There's lots of information. They're adding more all the time. And it's just an incredible resource. Get back to my and so we're here now. I wanted to ask you what you saw on the walls. I think I could tell you, but maybe if I could just open it up to you all real quick. What are some of the things that you notice in the works that are on the walls around us? Feel free. Lots of maps, yeah. Maps. Lots of stories. What else do you see? What do you notice?
Animals and people.
Lots of animals, lots of people. What kind of animals?
Wild.
What's that?
Wild.
Wild animals, yeah, I like it. There we go. What's that?
Bison.
We got bison, yeah. Bison. What else?
Sometimes the contrast is striking to me of stories that are in color, and numbers that are absolute.
There's lots of movement.
Lots of movement.
Yeah, the images move.
Sure. Absolutely.
Transactions, lots of transactions recorded
Transactions.
in the ledger.
Sure. Yeah, not maybe from the artist, but on the paper, right? Yeah. Yeah, what's written on them before. I always have to brush up on my cursive trying to read. I just barely remember learning cursive. What else do you see? Take a look around. What else do you notice? What else is sticking out to you on here? Color, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Women and children.
Women and children.
The similarities and the differences between the American Indian artists
Sure.
represented on the walls.
Yeah, absolutely. They all feel really connected here, but they all have definitely different takes on different subjects, but a lot of the same elements.
It's a lot of tradition, history, and symbolism, I guess.
Sure, yeah,
That really
absolutely.
connect you to that person's personal experience.
Absolutely. How about the ones in the back here in the corner? Right here in the back corner. What do you see in some of those? Umbrellas, yeah.
Were they part of the indigenous culture?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, what else do you notice in his batch of work there that might stick out to you too? And maybe it's hard to see down there in the corner. We got cars, right? So I'm talking about contemporary ledger art. We're standing in the most ledger art I've ever seen in one place, honestly, by artists who are really incredible and artists who have passed who made a huge impact on the path for the rest of all of these artists who are still alive and making today. We have bison, but we have cars, and there's wild animals, but there's parasols, right? I think that's even the word, parasol. Umbrellas. That's a good question.
David told me it came from the French.
Sure. Yeah, no, they're not. I wouldn't say it's like a traditionally made object, but yeah, certainly you're going to use them. The same as cars, the same as a lot of things here. There's images that tell stories of today, and you can see how artists are trying to also tell stories of the past. And there's a lot of the same themes that you would see if you look through the Plains Indian Ledger Art site there and through the books. You're going to see a lot of courtship. You're going to see teepees. You're going to see hunting, acts of bravery. You're going to see a lot of new things. You're going to see new stories, new styles. Like, what does that mean? I think it means it's growing. It means there's still room for it to grow. And I think that's a pretty incredible thing to talk about when you're talking about something that was born out of such a dark place in Indian history. And it's a great example of the resiliency and adaptability of Indigenous peoples. The fact that now artists are reaching back into a time when, I know for a fact that Aspen's using maps from 1892, 1895, the same time when I'm talking about the bison being dwindled down to 1,000 people, and it's so recent. The paper sometimes looks so new and fresh. And so it's reaching back in time, but it's really not that far away. And so it's telling an important history that I think is often overlooked. And I wish we could, when we get a chance, make sure you take a look at Terrence's too, just in the ways that he's adding collage and he's starting to build on that. That was something that was really early on and something that he developed that again is so incredible to talk about growth, and that how bleak it looked as far as how these were being forced to be made sometimes, or that they were made in such dark conditions that now artists embrace it and use it as a way to reclaim those stories and to tell them now. So it's a really beautiful thing you put together in here, Lisa and Jason and everybody. I guess that's all I have to present to you on. I was hoping to show you a few more images, but I think I'll leave it there and open it up to any questions that you might have. And thank you for being here and just taking part in this and hearing what I had to say. I really appreciate you all. So.
What I was noticing, and I think sometimes can be overlooked in the Indigenous art, is what comes off to a lot, to me and perhaps others, is the design element, but behind that design element is symbolism. And it's so rich in symbolism.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't always speak for every artist and what, I know John Pepion, he always talks about, he gets really into what is going on in Blackfeet culture and why he does exactly what he does with color and what those represent. I'm not Blackfeet, I don't know what those are, but no, you're absolutely right. I feel like when he works, everything has a meaning to it and intention for sure.
And just in working with you with the murals, I know that you write a little bit about what each of these artists is bringing to, like, what makes each of these artists unique. Do you think you could just go around the room and point to those artists and what you see as them bringing to this field and the way that they're pushing it?
Yeah. Oh, geez, Lisa, that's another presentation. No, yeah. It's good. Dig it up. Remember. I remember that I used to show John Pepion's work in my ledger art presentation. I just always appreciated, he had a piece that had, it was a Missoula County paper, and it was there was an American flag on it, but it was a native person, and he was behind bars, and it was a really intense piece that I used to show. I think he's so great at commentary, and he isn't afraid to say something about what's going on now, and this is sort of his surface level of his work, I guess, that I really appreciate. I just love his technique. He's really, really clean. If you ever get a chance to look at it, I don't know how he draws so cleanly and crisply. But I know that he really talks a lot about color and the meanings of color. And he's going to speak here too, isn't he? So yeah, make sure you come to that and hear him talk about his work.
His talk is going to focus on going from Blackfeet petroglyphs to...
Oh, good. Yeah.
So, very specific.
Absolutely. Louis still smoking. Oh, good. Yeah, awesome. There you go. Write it down. I actually didn't write about Louis still smoking, but I've seen his work before. He has an incredible mural in Helena that I really love. And to see this realistic, but not, I don't know how to describe that. It's really interesting new work that it's just goes to show how an incredible illustrator he is, and the time that he focuses on these details and highlighting these various animals. And I was really jealous of the paper that he found that he had, and I wondered how he got a hold of his paper. And talking about paper, Rachel Two Teeth, I love her story because of how she is connecting and using paper. The way she acquired some of this paper was through her grandmother. And this paper was gifted to her, and she had sort of a limited amount of it. It's a limited resource for her, and she's illustrating these stories on top of them. And for all of them, I don't know how they're all so fearless to draw with this paper. I've tried to sit with Aspen and do that, and I just can't do it. I just don't touch it. I'll use material that's like 1 million years old, but I just can't draw on a piece of paper. That's, but yeah, Rachel's got some really incredible use of color, and her just that meaning. I know that must be hard for her to draw on those pieces of paper and have to use them up, and that it comes from a book that she was gifted. And David Dragonfly, we have one of his pieces at our house, and he's so free in the way that he works. And I wish I could say my favorite quote from him, but it's like full of expletives, and I'm not going to say it here, but he gave some really good advice about making art that I can see here.
I think you should say it.
He just said, it's on MCAT. I'll just edit it. He just said you have to have a central figure. There's a whole lot of words in between that are just, and just the way that he focused on, and just his so free in his style. And we were going to interview him, and he passed away before I could interview him, but I'd met him a number of times before that. And Aspen's work, she's just, she's fearless too, and she has a lot to tell. I think when she was an artist when we met, but she wasn't like doing it full time or anything like that. And I just remember being like, I think you should like focus on it because you're really good. And she was gifted a grade book from St. Ignatius from the 1940s, and like really got started drawing in that book, and had gifted some pieces away. And she's just always improved and gotten better, and to a point where just the level of detail she puts into her work and the time she spends looking into and designing all of the different regalia that's in there. She likes to go and she sits and sketches them out and works them out and works them over and works them, and then she'll finally get to the one that she likes and she'll put them on. So it's like she's making all these individual pieces of regalia, and is fearless. I can't. Sometimes she sketches in pen, and I don't know how she does that. It's like in permanent marker. There's no going back, and she just she gets right to it, And I always admire her for that, because it's terrifying. I'm like, that's like a 150-year-old map, and she just starts drawing on it, in pen, and I'm like, you can't erase that. She's like, I don't need to. So. She knows what she's about, and she knows what she wants to say, and again, she's so full of. She was raised so culturally and around so many incredible elders who aren't here today that she just she chose that as a kid. I think I always respected her for that, that she could have gone and played outside, but she loved to just choose to sit inside and listen to elders, and participated in so many things where she learned a ton of information, and is going back and sharing this knowledge. And to do it on maps, I think, is such a powerful statement. And, you know, John Pepion, any of these artists who are using maps, I think goes even beyond drawing on an accountant's paper in a way that is talking about the land, and especially what a map represents and what it represents from back then, is just is an incredible thing to do. And Terrence's work on the very end is it's the first time I ever got to see some in person. I'd only ever seen them online, and they are so full, and I don't know how he comes up with his compositions and how he decides to, you know, paste things together in the stories he's telling, but he's so rooted in the spiritual aspect of everything he's talking about, and I'm still just really getting to know that work, but I hope that helps encompass a lot of what they're doing. I'm sure it doesn't do any justice to any of what the artists are doing, but hopefully it gives you something. Yes, Leon?
I wanted to make a comment about that David Dragonfly's piece of Carousel, because I was thinking about that question. What that piece does is so brilliant, is it reminds us all that culture is not something static.
Sure.
It
Yeah,
certainly
that's a good point.
carries tradition, but it carries the time and place in which the people are
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah,
And that
amazing.
piece just does that so brilliantly.
No, that's the perfect way to put it, Leon. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? I don't know what time it is. Lots of time. Yeah.
Growth of Indigenous art and murals around Montana. Have we come full circle where we're painting on walls again?
Yeah, oh, I gotta say, me and Aspen got to paint a mural in Ronan this summer, and I'm still sunburnt from that. I was still sunburnt from it. Was that was an incredible experience, and I think about that all the time. We got to make a permanent mark. Hopefully it lasts as long as some of these pictographs do, but yeah, no, I think it absolutely feels like that, like contributing in a part that way. It's just a different kind of wall, I guess, but yeah, I can only hope it lasts that long. But she got to make a mark on it and talk about Salish history and a place that Salish people are, and it just felt really good to be a part of that. And no, absolutely, I love seeing how much art is going up and what it does for recognizing the people of this place. So,
I feel like there was one other question I saw back
any
here.
other questions? Oh, I'm in.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, let's do it my best.
Your use of the mineral
Uh-huh.
pigments, what is the binder that makes it last for
Sure.
centuries?
Yeah, I could tell you maybe. And I've heard of a couple different binders, but egg white is what I've heard used. But I don't. I'm not totally sure. I really don't know the answer for all of them. I'm sure they're all different. Honestly, like I'm sure it's not uniform across all the different pictographs. I would even say that if it's as fine as this stuff, that it probably is also just worked in, and it's probably, to me, in places that aren't getting a lot of, they're not getting a lot of water, they're in places that are protected, probably mostly from water. But I don't know. I've heard of fats, I've heard of egg whites, I've heard of egg white will dry and stay like that forever, yeah, if you can. But I don't know. I don't know the answer for you right off the top of my head, so I'll look it up.
Right, well, most of these things seem really fragile, like they seem like they're really from an old time. How were they preserved in the cartilage? I mean, how did they survive, or,
The paper or the
well, just the artwork, how did it become something more commercialized, or it became more honored or found a respect?
it's never really gone away. I think that artists have been using and drawing on paper since it's made its way here. But
Do they exchange with each other?
I think a lot of the, and it talks about that on the website, a lot of the books that you'll see, sometimes those books are commissioned and they were bought in the prison. So that artist would draw on either a book that was already bound, or they would draw on individual sheets and then the book was bound later. But yeah, there's one on here where a man was, it's the Black Hawk Ledger, and he was, the artist had been coming into a trading post, and him and the trading post had sort of befriended each other, and the trading post man knew that he had come on some hard times as he was coming into that trading post, and so he started giving him a paper and paying him 50 cents for a drawing. And then the man was bringing him in and trading that in every week for goods. And then the man eventually bound that book or bound it into a book. And they were going to sit down together and like write out all of the stories of them. The artist had passed away before that happened. And so it's just a book where you have to really depend on just your visual literacy to try to interpret anything out of there. But yeah, no, the books are, it's a good question. They're all different in the way that they made their ways into collections and museums, and so many of them were bought early on though. Yeah, they were bought and put into private collection, I think. I don't know if many of the books were carried around for too long, or I don't know. No, that's a good question. Thanks, I wish I could answer that.
All right, let's give Cameron. So you can sign up for the other talks on our website and take a couple minutes and look at this art, and hopefully you see it in new ways. Thanks for coming. See ya.
Thank you.